Afternoon, colleagues.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I am Ms. Martina van der Walt Ehlers. I'm the module coordinator for COM 3705. I'm joined by my colleague, Ms. Kulani Mashele today. Um, yes, so I think without further ado, let's get through this class. It is recording, it will be posted onto my UNISA as well. I will run through my presentation and then at the end, you are more than welcome to raise any questions that you might have. Okay, so this is then our final live preparation class for assignment 1. And here is just a quick idea of how this session will play out. So yes, we are going to look at the following points: the ethical use of generative AI, because it is an issue that we deal with quite a bit. Then I will assist you just with some tips on finding and verifying your own sources, since 4 of the subsections require that of you. And from there, we are going to walk through the brief itself, section by section, question by question. I'll close with the technical presentation requirements and a checklist of common pitfalls drawn from how these assignments are actually marked, so that you know where marks tend to be lost before you submit and not after. And that will be followed by a Q&A. So, important, how are we using this session? It is a map of where to look for each question, an explanation of the kind of reasoning each question is testing, direct guidance on how to search for and verify your own sources, and a checklist for the technical marks and general pitfalls that most commonly cost you marks. What the session will not be is, it is not a model answer, not even a partial one. It's not a list of sources for you to copy into your essay. It's not a substitute for actually reading Learning Units 4 and 7 and the 4 prescribed articles yourselves, and it's not something you can use instead of doing your own research. If you leave this session and go straight into writing without having opened the readings, you have misunderstood what this class is for. Okay, so what is just assignment 1, the structure at a glance? Purely so that we're all just working from the same map. There's 50 marks in total, and it's split across an introduction and conclusion with 2.5 marks each, 4 10-mark theory sections: the international news flow, framing theory, diplomacy, and soft power and public diplomacy, and then 5 marks for technical presentation. The detail I want to flag now, because it shapes almost everything else in the session, is that 4 specific sub-questions, 1.2b, 1.3b, 1.4b, and 1.5c, require you to locate and cite a real current source of your own. That single design feature is why we're going to spend quite a bit of time now on the ethical use of AI and on source verification. So why is this assignment designed the way it is? I want to read out almost word for word what your assignment brief itself says, because it matters. The brief states that several questions require you to identify and engage with real sources you have independently located, to retrieve and cite current examples, and to reflect on your own situated experience. It then says directly that responses generated by AI tools will typically be unable to satisfy these requirements accurately, and that fabricated or hallucinated names, outdated statistics, and generic personal reflections are identifiable and will be treated as evidence of misconduct. I'm not raising this to scare you today. I'm raising it because it's the actual design logic of the assignment. And understanding this will make you a better, more efficient researcher for this specific task. And that's why I'm spending some time on AI ethics before we even open the briefs content. So how do we use AI, generative AI, responsibly? So let's start with what is generally defensible. Using an AI tool to have a theory explained back to you in plain language, purely to check your own understanding, is a reasonable study aid, provided that you then go and verify that understanding against the actual study guide and readings, rather than taking AI's explanation. Asking it to explain terminology you're unsure of works in exactly the same way. Using it to brainstorm possible essay structures or the order in which to tackle your paragraphs is fine, as long as the structure you actually build and the content that fills it is your own work. And using it as a grammar and language checker on writing that is otherwise entirely your own is a legitimate and common use of this tool. But notice the pattern in all 4 of these. The AI is helping you think or checking your own work. It's not generating content that ends up in your assignment unmodified. In other words, it's not doing the work for you. Where generative AI cannot help you, do not ask it to find or generate a news article, a headline, or a diplomatic development. This is precisely where these tools are the least reliable, and they will often fabricate something plausible sounding rather than admit that they don't have access to verify it. Do not ask AI to write your reflection on your own situated experience. By definition, obviously, it doesn't have your experience. So anything that it's going to produce is just generic filler. And we are specifically going to be looking for that. Do not copy an AI-generated citation into your reference list without independently verifying yourself that the source exists at that URL with that content. Citation that looks correctly formatted is not the same as a citation that is real. And do not submit AI-generated analyses or arguments as your own without substantially reworking it in your own words and showing your own thinking. Each of these is not just risky, it's exactly the failure mode this assignment was built to expose. So why do we say fabricated sources are checkable? And trust me, we will be checking them. It's worth understanding exactly why this is checkable, because it should change how you approach your own research, not just how you avoid getting caught. A real citation survives a click. Publication, author, date, and a headline that we can actually go and find exactly as it is described. A fabricated one will not. An invented headline, a wrong date, or a URL that leads nowhere is immediately visible in like a 2-minute check, even less. And the standard being applied is verifiability, not prestige. So even if you only find a short report, if it is correctly and honestly cited, that will earn you full marks for the subsections where they are counting. An invented citation will not do this, no matter how convincing it reads. So the practical lesson is don't try to impress us with a source, try to be right about the source. So how do you find your own sources? Start specific. Search the actual event and not the theory. Searching for the SA-US tariff dispute plus a rough date range will get you far further than searching for abstract phrases like news flow imbalance. Second, vary your source type deliberately, especially for 1.2b. You need one piece from a global wire agency like Reuters, AP, or Bloomberg, and then one from an African outlet. And you'll get better results searching for these as two separate targeted searches rather than one combined one. Thirdly, check the date against what the question is actually asking. 1.44b, for example, specifically wants a development that occurred since the stimulus article. So if what you find predates that, it simply doesn't satisfy the requirements. And fourth, read past the headline. You need the actual content, the frame, the quote, the specific detail to do the comparison or to illustrate the question, what the question is asking you to build. So before you cite, here is a verification checklist. And you can run your source through these 5 checks. Can you personally open the article at the URL you are about to cite? Does the publication author and date you're about to write down match what's genuinely on that page? Is the article actually about the SA-US tariff dispute specifically, not a different, similar type of story that came up in your search? Have you recorded the full citation details right while the page is open in front of you? Because you won't necessarily remember the exact URL and the date later, and going back to find it again will waste your time. Finally, does this source actually do the analytical work the question is asking for? Or have you just found a source that happens to exist without it actually helping your argument? That last one is where you will often lose marks, even with a perfectly real citation. So what is important is real but unused, or real but not analyzed. So now we get to the nitty-gritty of the assignment. For your introduction, it is only 2.5 marks, and we expect about 1/3 of a page. Here you must ask yourself three things as you are writing the introduction. Have you actually contextualized the dispute in your own words, or have you just recited or repeated the stimulus article back? Have you named the specific concepts from Learning Unit 4 and 7 that your essay is going to use? Not just vaguely sort of write about communication theory, but name the actual theories. And does your introduction tell the reader how your essay is structured and not just what the topic is about? So for where to look, revisit Learning Unit 4, Section 4.1 on news as commodity, and Learning Unit 7, Section 7.1 on migration, diplomacy, and tourism as forms of international communication. That is the framing language your introduction should be drawing on, not a summary of that stimulus article itself. 1.2a is for 3 marks, and it asks for the concept of international news flow plus the theoretical frameworks explaining its direction. So here you can test yourself. Can you define international news flow in a single sentence in your own words without looking it up? Can you name and explain what a theory of news flow direction actually predicts, not just recite its name, but say what it means for how news actually moves between countries? And are you confident that you can explain out loud the difference between world systems theory and dependency theory? If you hesitate on that last one, that's exactly the confusion that we as markers will flag. So go back to Learning Unit 4, sections 4.2 through 4.2.1 through 4.2.3, and make sure that you can articulate this distinction, not just recognize the names. 1.2b and c, together, they are worth 7 marks between them. For B, you have to actually find 2 real current separately sourced articles, one from a global wire agency and one from an African outlet, that and not simply rely on the stimulus article itself. And you must ask yourself, are you comparing how each one frames the story rather than just summarizing each in turn without drawing the comparison out explicitly? For C, here we are looking at the newsworthiness factors. Have you picked specific factors and shown with real specificity how Grassland or Grow and Vargo support them? Question explicitly wants those two readings tied in, not Learning Unit 4's factors listed on their own. Revisit Learning Unit 4, Section 4.3.1 for the factors themselves, and then go back to our previous slides in this presentation for how to actually go and find and verify the 2 real articles that Part B needs. For 1.3.A, we are looking at framing theory and its relevance. This is for 3 marks. You need to check yourself. Can you define a media frame properly without just substituting the word bias? Framing is a more precise concept than bias, and we can very clearly notice the difference in your description. Can you explain why framing choices are really neutral? What actually shapes a reporter's or an outlet's framing decision? And have you connected framing specifically to international news rather than describing media framing in general terms that can apply to any news story anywhere? Go back to Learning Unit 4, Section 4.2.4 for the theory itself, and look again at the Ethiopian elections case study nearby in the study guide, not for content to lift, but as a model of how a theoretical comparison like this gets built and structured. For 1.3b and c, conflict versus development frame, this is worth 7 marks combined, and B is the single highest value sub-question in this whole section at 5 marks on its own. So check, have you found a real headline or extract that clearly illustrates each of the 2 frames, conflict and economic or developmental? Or have you accidentally illustrated the same frame twice from 2 different articles? Is that illustrative material properly cited in the body of your text and in your list of sources consulted? And for part C, are you actually discussing a consequence of the framing pattern, what it does, who it affects, what impression it creates, rather than simply restating what the 2 frames are, which you've already covered in part B? For C specifically, Learning Units 4 case study 4.3, the WTO Congress analysis, is a useful model for the kind of consequence this question wants you thinking about. So 1.4a deals with defining diplomacy and its subforms. So ask yourself, can you define diplomacy itself cleanly before you even get into the three subforms. Can you distinguish formal or secret diplomacy, closed door diplomacy, and open diplomacy from each other? Not just list them, but say specifically what makes each one different from the others. And have you matched a specific moment from the stimulus article to one of these subforms and explained why it fits there, rather than just asserting that it does? This is entirely in Learning Unit 7, Section 7.4, right at the start of the diplomacy material. The definitions themselves are there. Matching them to the article's specific events is the analytical work you need to do yourself. Then 1.4b and c looks at the significance of the shift and then digital diplomacy in Africa. This is for 6 marks combined. For B, can you explain why formal or closed door channels are considered more appropriate for sensitive bilateral disputes? What do they actually protect the negotiators from? And critically, have you found a real dated development in the dispute that comes after the stimulus article, not before it, and not simply restating what the article already told you? That date check matters enormously. For C, are you using specific named findings from Mutsia Maluki and Adar's 2024 study, actual statistics or claims from that paper, rather than a general impression or claims, or rather than a general impression of the reading was about digital diplomacy? Go back to Learning Unit 7, 7.4 for the reasoning behind B, and go back to Mutisia et al. Directly for C. So not a summary of the article from memory. Then we move to 1.45a and b. Here we look at soft power versus hard power and public and media diplomacy. This is for 6 marks combined. For A, have you classified the tariffs correctly as an exercise of hard or soft power? And can you actually justify that classification rather than just asserting it? A sharper answer also has something worth saying about the channel the announcement used, social media, versus its actual content. Think about whether those two things point in the same direction or not. For B, can you distinguish public diplomacy from media diplomacy? These are related but genuinely different concepts in Learning Unit 7. And treating them as interchangeable is a common way that you can lose marks here. Both of these are directly in Learning Unit 7, Section 7.4. Once again, the definitions are there, but the application to this specific dispute and any critical observation about the channel versus content mismatch is the part that you need to build yourself. And then 1.5c. This is for 4 marks, and it's the last of the 4 independent research sub-questions. So here you will check. Are you using Achieng Kiamba and Kagwanja's actual argument, their case for dialogue-based two-way public diplomacy, or have you just cited their names without engaging with what they actually claim? Have you found a real current named example of South African public diplomacy, specific statement, a campaign, or a diplomatic visit, not a vague gesture at South Africa's diplomatic efforts? And have you explained why that example illustrates the reading's argument, rather than just describing the example on its own and leaving the connection implicit? Go back to the Achieng et al. Article directly for their argument and to your own current search, using the same search and verification approach that we discussed earlier in this class for your example that you need to find. Your conclusion is once again for 2.5 marks, and it's the last content section. Here you must ask yourself, how are you actually synthesizing across both learning units, drawing a genuine connection between the international news flow material and the diplomacy and soft power material? Or are you just summarizing one section at a time back to back? Remember, you are not allowed to introduce any new material here. Any new material should be argued earlier. And importantly, does your conclusion actually sound different from your introduction? While your introduction and conclusion should echo each other, your conclusion shouldn't just be restating the same sentence on how you were going to frame your assignment from the introduction. There's nothing new to go and look up for this section. It draws entirely on material that you've already built for 1.2 through 1.5. So treat it as a genuine synthesis task and not as a fresh research task. Then we get to your technical presentation requirements. You will structure your assignment accordingly. You will start with a title page, and this is followed by very importantly, the AI declaration, the integrity declaration that you can find on my UNISA. If you don't include the declaration, you will lose all 5 marks for your technical presentation. This will be followed by a table of contents, then clearly numbered subsections, and then a list of sources consulted. Formatting, we are looking at 12-point font, 1.5 line spacing, 2.5 centimeter margins. Your numbering, 1.2 through to 1.6, you can have a 1.2a, 1.2b, 1.2c. Use short headings for both your table of contents and for your headings in the text of the assignment itself. Remember, we are using UNISA's Harvard-style referencing, and it should be applied consistently, both in text and in your list of sources consulted. And you need to reference your independently sourced articles or examples, and they need to be referenced once again in text and as a full correct entry in your reference list. Please use your CMN All 301, work through that tutorial letter to get your technical presentation 100% correct. So here are just some common pitfalls where we see students lose marks. Naming a theory correctly, but not explaining what it actually predicts. You shouldn't just name it, you should show what it says and what it means for your case. Don't conflate, for that first 1.2, don't conflate the two theories. They explain different things, so keep their claims and their focus separate. Remember, you need to use a comparing tone instead of a mechanism. Go beyond tone. Analyze how and why the frame works in each article. Illustrate the same, don't illustrate the same frame twice instead of both frames once each. Find one clear example for each frame from your sources. Treating public diplomacy and media diplomacy as if they're interchangeable. That's a mistake. You need to explain what makes each one distinct and why that distinction matters. Don't include a real citation that appears in text but not in the reference list, or vice versa. Every in-text citation must have a matching reference list entry, and it must be correct and verifiable. Don't have a conclusion that restates the introduction instead of synthesizing the essay. Your conclusions should bring your arguments together. So answer this with insight and not with repetition. And then here is very much linked to what I've just discussed, a pre-submission checklist. Every theory you've named, you should also be able to explain in 1 or 2 sentences to someone who sits next to you and asks you. Every real source you've cited, you have personally opened and verified. 1.2b, 1.3b, 1.4b, 1.5c. Each cite a source I found myself, not the stimulus article. Every citation appears both in text and in your list of sources consulted. Your conclusion adds synthesis. It's not repetition of your introduction. Font, spacing, margins, numbering, referencing style, all should match the brief, all should match CMN All 301, and remember your AI integrity declaration. So now it is over to you. It's everything that I wanted to discuss with you, I've now done. The reading, the searching, the writing from here are genuinely yours to do. It's not a formality, it's the actual point of how this assignment was designed. So if anything from today is unclear, the theory guidance, the source finding strategy, the AI ethics, or the technical requirements, let's raise it now while we are together in this session, or you can obviously discuss it with me or the team members via email. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and then I'm going to, as I've said, open the floor to you. You are more than welcome to, I see already raised hands. I'm going to start with student A, Ronotti. You can please unmute yourself and you can go ahead with your question. Okay, otherwise I'm going to move. Oh, okay, thanks. There you are.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Hi.
Oh, yeah. How are you, ma'am?
Yes.
All right, you've already moved from the question that I want to ask, which is 1.2c. I'm not sure if I was able to hear everything on that part. while you were explaining it, the newsworthiness and factors that we are supposed to find. I'm not sure if we are supposed to find them on our own article that we've searched, or are
Yes.
we are, is it
Yes.
the same one that we are looking for at 1.2b?
Yes, that is exactly the same article. So for this one, you are using the same content.
Okay, no, that's all.
Okay. Okay, that's
Thank you.
great. No problem. And then Francis, over to you. You can unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. How are you, ma'am?
I'm finding yourself.
I'm fine, thank you. Yes, so I just wanted to be sure about, because when it comes to the AI usage, because I'd rather be
Yes.
honest about how I use it, because I'd be lying if I said I didn't use it, but I want to explain how I use it.
Okay.
Let's get the source. For example, if whether it's a tutorial later or it's an article and I'm reading it and I'm like, I'm struggling to understand this. And then
Yes.
I'll, for example, take my phone, take a photo of it, share it to AI and ask, can you please just explain this to me or put it into simpler language? I'm struggling to
Okay.
grasp it or to understand it. Is that acceptable or is that not acceptable?
That is completely fine as long as you are not then regurgitating what the AI has given you word for word.
Yes,
So
yes, obviously,
that is,
yeah.
yes, no. As I've said there in the beginning of the class, that is completely fine. What you will see from that AI declaration, that integrity declaration, you can explain that to us there. Because if something is flagged, if the Turnitin report flags the AI use, and I need to just explain to you that we are interpreting that report. We are not just using the percentage that we see and work from that. We see that percentage, we then return to your AI declaration, the integrity declaration, where there are 5 in-depth questions that you need to answer. From that, I can see, okay, this is what you explain. We are also encouraging students to take screenshots of when they are using AI. The university is taking this extremely seriously. So there are cases of where we are calling students in, asking them to share screenshots of how they use AI, share their history, because that is obviously something that is easily done with chat, etc. Because you can share your history with us so that we can exactly see what you did, and then we can say, okay, no, that is completely fine. But what you are explaining, that is in line with what is generally acceptable.
Yeah, because I know, yeah, like, because that always makes me a little bit nervous, but sometimes I really don't understand this. I need some clarification. And then the same, like, for example, you said,
that makes sense.
yeah. And then also, like, when you say with the structure, for example, I totally ChatGPT anything for citations because I know, like, I'd rather just use the guides that are provided on my UNISA.
Yes.
But also, like, if you ask it, for example, I have asked it, for example, as well, like, what would be, I'd always specifically say, could you give me a basic structure for this essay? But I always stipulate, do not give me an answer or write an essay for me. I just want a structure, basic. Is that also permissible? I always stipulate.
That is permissible. In this case, I know that we are saying essay, but we've given you demarcation of sections. So, I mean, you can use the 1.2a, 1.2b as your numbered headings in your assignment. So you are not technically writing an essay, but as you explain it, that is also a generally acceptable use of AI. Once again, as long as it's giving you a general structure and it's not giving you answers, it should not actually be flagged for unethical use of AI.
Okay, because I mostly just use it to kind of clarify something that I don't understand. That's, in all honesty, that's what I use it for.
Yeah. Yes, no, that's completely fine. That is fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions at this time?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I do have one more. With the articles that we do find, For example, a lot of the ones that I'm trying to, like, I've already kind of done my assignment, but there are a few things that I feel like I need to review and such. Like, I don't feel the articles I selected actually are sufficient, which is why I'm revisiting it. Because if I'm looking for like an international article, like by Reuters, or a lot of them on the South African tariff dispute are mostly very short. They're not exactly elaborate articles. Should it be a long article, or is those,
Should
can I
not.
say,
As
shorter
of you
articles?
know, it's really fine if it's a short article. It's not necessary. As long as you can use what it provides you to give me the answer that we are looking for, that is completely fine. So as I've mentioned in the beginning as well, rather have a short article that actually exists, that meets the requirements of the brief, and that is related then to the topic of that particular question, and that you can actually feel it can help you in answering that question. It can help you in your analysis. Then that is completely fine.
Yeah, because I just feel the article I've chosen, I feel like I haven't been able to give enough analysis, which is why I'm trying to find new ones. I just feel like my answers aren't sufficient.
Keep the mark allocation in mind. Okay.
Oh,
Keep the mark
yes,
allocation
sorry.
in mind.
This is
It
my
is
final.
not, you are not, I don't have I'm not going to give you a page or a word count for the assignment. I always say rather write more than more, but obviously, like, include the information that is relevant. Don't include irrelevant information, but also keep the mark allocation in mind. You are not writing an honors research report. It is an assignment 1. So as long as what the article gives you is enough for a analysis that takes into account the theory that is relevant to that particular question, that is completely fine.
Okay,
I hope
perfect.
that answers. Okay, wonderful. I see that we have a lot of students that have only joined now. I have already run through the brief of the assignment, but I am happy to answer any questions that you might now have. I'm sure by now you have worked through all the articles, you have worked through all the study units, you have found your examples. Therefore, you should have a rough draft, and you should have, if you are unsure about anything, questions that you might want to ask me. So you can either just raise your hand, otherwise you can type it into the meeting chat. The recording of this session, as well as the recording of the previous 2 sessions, it will be on my UNISA by tonight. Okay. I'm not seeing any hands at this point. I am not seeing any questions at this point. Remember, this is a question and answer session. This is not a session where, while I did work through the brief, it is not a session for me to be talking at you. It is a session for me to be having a conversation with you about the content. So if you do have a question for me, let's allow another minute quickly for any questions that might come up. Otherwise, I am available via email. It is now crunch time, 3 days before submission. So I am looking at my emails constantly. Please do remember that you should not use the question, the little block on my UNISA for your questions. We don't access that consistently, so please rather just send an email. Because it is now very close to submission time. The turnaround time, I can promise you, will be very, very quick. Okay. Students, I am not seeing any questions being typed. I'm not seeing any hands. I do know that a lot of you now joined late, but yes, the session did start at 4:30. Yes, Nanasi, please unmute yourself and go ahead with a question. Okay, I see you have unraised your hand again. Okay, I don't want to keep anyone any longer than they need to be here. So I will upload this session onto my UNISA as soon as this recording has completed. As soon as this recording is available on Teams, I will upload it on my UNISA. I will also upload the PowerPoint presentation as a PDF for you. There is a section, I'll quickly share my screen to show you. Let me just find it. Sorry. Why can't I find it now? Sorry. There is a section where you can access. So if you go onto my UNISA and you scroll down, you will see that there is a tab for introduction. There's a tab for assignments and exam portfolio. And under there is something called PowerPoint slides of lecture videos. And under there, I will upload this particular PowerPoint slide now as well that I've gone through with you in the beginning of the session. Then you can work through that. But yes, the recordings will be uploaded on my UNISA tonight. This recording, the recording of the first session is already available as well. So yes, just reiterating, any questions that you might have, please send me an email. I will respond to you. The cutoff is then on Friday, the 28th, and it is at 9 p.m. So no submissions after 9 p.m., please. I want to thank everyone for joining me. Sorry for those that have joined late now. But best of luck with these final days. As I said, I'm sure that most of you have hopefully a rough draft already. And working from that, and you realize that you might have questions, you can just drop me an email. Students, best of luck with your preparations. Best of luck with your preparations for your other assignments as well. I know that there are several modules currently in sort of their assignment week. We do know that you are all under enormous stress. I can promise you we are also under enormous stress. There will be an assignment 1 feedback class as well, which will be presented in about 21 days. So once all the marking has been completed, there will be an assignment 1 feedback class. Your next assignment is the MCQ. Assignment 2, those questions are only going live on the 4th of September. So it's opening on the 4th of September. Please be mindful of the fact that it is a timed assessment. So you will have 3 hours to complete that assessment. And it will be based on study unit 1 and study unit 5. So that is then due on the 18th of September. So there was also an extension to that assignment date. And once that assignment has been completed, we will start with our lessons. So the pre-recorded lessons and online preparation lessons for your exam portfolio. Once again, thank you for joining me, everyone. Best of luck. And we will, I want to say speak, see, we will be on each other's screen very soon again. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening. Goodbye, students.